when it matters.
Pieter Nel, good evening.
Good evening. How are you this evening?
I'm good. So, Pieter Nel is the executive at Altron Bytes, People Solutions. He's going to be speaking to us about aspects of the digital transformation, but with specific focus on how employees in the workplace can adopt, some technologies and actually, also adapt to the digitized workplace. Peter, thanks once again for joining us. Talk to us about what is actually meant by digital transformation.
I think digital transformation as a concept is overall is actually really about how do people adopt to the new technologies, how do they change processes, and giving people the ability to quickly work through data and make certain business decisions. The key component is always how do you actually get your staff members to adopt this digital journey.
And what are the challenges that employers out there and employees alike are facing in this particular journey?
I think a critical component of this digital transformation and rolling out new technologies is always how much employee pushback will you get. I think often people go back to old school is the better school. Specifically at the moment under pressure. I think the second component of this is also how do you actually ensure that your staff members become part of this digital journey that you're embarking on. And lastly, what we're really finding is that companies have got a digital transformation strategy, but the critical component is do they have a learning strategy that ties into this?
And of course, Peter, it takes time to actually, inculcate that culture, the new culture when it comes to a digitized workplace. But give us examples of digitizing a workplace and how long it might actually take for employees to actually adapt.
Well, let me use a specific example. The old school way of providing learning solutions and assisting companies in this process is always about how do you actually create material for people to use, how do you schedule classrooms, what facilitator do you provide, how do you provide the practice environment, etc. But a critical component of this is now how do you actually make this learning experience digital? Specifically also against the backdrop of we know that traditional training limits a week after training or 2 weeks after training, people forget. So I want to really just use a practical example of this.
Yes.
Is most people, if you provide digital technology solutions to employees, it's really like providing an employee with a fancy car, and that fancy car has actually got an amazing satellite navigation system. But when a person starts using this, and you go back to an old school methodology, it's really like a person getting up, going to their bookshelf and actually taking a map book and then trying to find where they're supposed to go on a map whilst they're sitting with this incredible satellite navigation system. So what we're really seeing is, and as an example, if you roll out an ERP tool, is that learning is got to cater for various elements, but it's really got to be made available to people as and when they need that. So one of the components that organizations are focusing on is a technology component referred to as in-application coaching. And what it really refers to is, if you think about you've now logging onto your ERP tool that's been rolled out to digitize your environment, you log in and now you've got to perform a specific transaction.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be absolutely awesome if you can get a 24/7 facilitator that literally sits next to you, and the moment you run into a stumbling block, that person pops up and says to you, listen, the way that you perform a transaction is doing the following steps. And that's literally what one of the solutions we provide is focusing on, is embedding training in the application. So not a similar old Word document that you have to read, but actually sitting in application, you call it up, and it takes you step by step through that component. So it takes all the fear out of learning, because you don't have to get up and ask somebody. You literally just ask the software that you've opened.
And do you find that employers are actually welcoming the changes themselves when it comes to, digitizing the workplace?
Yes, I think there's absolutely. So if we take a look at how many customers worldwide are adopting this way of learning, it cuts a significant amount of cost out of training. But because of the fact that it gives an employee an opportunity